Hey, Yetta, is the captain or the navigator most important?
I'm going to tell you it's the captain. And we're going to unpack that in a minute.
Moving forward with the Dekker Team. Moving forward together with the Dekker Team.
For over 30 years, we've been able to come alongside you not only over 3,117 times, helping you buy and sell real estate and invest in it, but really 30 years of coming alongside you to build your fun, build your faith, build your finances, and even strengthen and heal and flourish inside relationships. So 30 years of building life, home, and wealth. So what we're going to discover is when we look at captain and the navigator, what the role is of each of them.
Yeah. And I actually think both roles are super important. And people might be thinking, what are you talking about? We're talking about buying and selling real estate. Why are you talking about captain and navigator? Because we all have our roles.
We all have our roles. And you as the homeowner or the person that wants to buy a home, you are the captain. You are the captain of the ship. You're the one that has to qualify for the mortgage. You're the one that has to make the calls to your organizations and the team that's going to support you. You're making the decisions. Ultimately, what you want wins. You decide what you're going to pay, what you're not going to pay, what you're going to sell for, what you're not going to sell for. You're the captain of this whole thing.
The captain determines the destination.
Mm-hmm.
And then they delegate to the navigator, how are we going to get there?
Exactly. And the navigator would be us, the Dekker team, if we're helping you navigate. It's going to be your realtor. It's going to be your whole team. But you really want a core navigator that's gone before you, that actually understands the entire course that needs to be navigated.
Yeah.
To get from here to there.
We could call like the market the sea, right? You need to understand the sea or the ocean. And then you got to know where the pitfalls are, where the rocks are, where the islands are that you got to avoid, stay in the channel, keep you safe to get to your destination. That's what the navigator does.
Right. You got to know what the turbulence is, what the potential turbulence is, and then know how to navigate through it. Sometimes we have to go right through it.
Sometimes we got to go through the storm, and sometimes we can avoid the storm.
Most of the time we can avoid the storm, which is great.
So whether you're selling or you're buying, the navigator is so important. And let's talk about selling for a second. You know, a lot of people think, okay, I just need to advertise.
Right.
But there's a distinction between advertising and marketing. And marketing is the active. Advertising is the passive. Yes, there's some active in designing the ads and the pictures and all that kind of stuff. But once you put it out there, your advertising is passive. Marketing is what I do when I talk to other realtors, when I get on the Facebook group, when I start talking during our Zoom calls, our weekly Zoom calls about our new properties for sale. That's marketing. And
proactive. I'm going to say even a step further when you're being proactive in the following up on the marketing efforts. Mm-hmm. So even when we use social media to get the word out there, the newsletter that we send out every single week now with market updates, that's one of the letters. And each week you can get access to market data. Well, that is a communication, a dialogue back and forth. So it's a proactive engagement in moving even your property forward. Because if we're not talking to anybody, we're not getting it out there, and we're not having those connections, it's pretty difficult to sell real estate.
Yeah. And then another thing that we do as a navigator is we navigate the negotiations. Because, you know, you might think negotiations isn't a big deal, but we've seen people net 1% to 3% more. And you go, well, 1% to 3%, that's nothing. Well, 3% on a $600,000 house. What is that? $18,000.
$18,000.
To me, that's a lot of money.
Well, and in fact, I have my stories where it's a lot more than 3%, where it's 5% or 10%, the difference.
Yeah, but we don't want to overpromise.
I know, I'm not overpromising. I'm just saying this is for real. How you do the work of representing your client, which is part of the negotiation process, makes a difference.
Yeah.
One of the core little tiny strategies. I'll give it away now. Use the phone. Instead of text message and email, is talk to people. Yeah. It's become this thing that we tend not to do as much in our industry.
It's like a lost art.
Yeah. And yet it's a huge difference makers in the negotiation process. And in terms of what you're going to buy your home for, and even in terms of what you're going to sell your home for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think, you want a navigator that's gone through the waters before, that whether it be commercial real estate, leasing, renting, investment, multi-units, just a single family home. You want a realtor that's got experience, both helping people, like we've got between you and I, we're over 60 years of experience, and the team, we're about 100 years of experience. And you want people that have experience on your side, the navigators, but you also want somebody that's doing what you want to do. So if you want to invest in real estate, you want to find a realtor that also invests in real estate. If you want to buy a commercial property for your business, you want someone that's bought a commercial property for their business. It's just so important.
There's things you can't learn if you're not in the trenches. You can't learn if you don't have the experience. You can't, if I haven't had to navigate it for others, but also haven't had to navigate it for myself, chances are I'm not going to know all the areas of turbulence.
Yeah.
Like experience is it's costly, but once you have it, it's hugely beneficial. It's worth so much.
Yeah. And when you talk about turbulence, I think you're really talking about currents, because we got a ship theme going on here.
Is that not similar?
Strong currents in the ocean,
right,
can drag you into the rocks, right? And we do not want you to be shipwrecked. And saying that, we'll even check, do you need a life? Do you need, we're like your life jacket, but do you need a lifeboat? In other words, when you're moving from one house to another, do you need interim accommodation? Do you need, because we attempt to line up closings right on, but sometimes they're not. And so do you need interim financing? So you carry 2 properties for a few weeks. Those are the lifeboats.
Right. And every situation is different. So it really again, it's identifying what is most essential for you. And then we can create a strategy and a plan that puts it together and avoiding most of that currents that are rough and rugged.
Thanks. Yeah. Heavy seas.
Heavy seas.
Yeah. We don't want to get you into heavy seas. That being said, we know what to do when we get into them. And, we're that team. We're the team that can help navigate through these waters of ship switching or buying your first ship. And if you want to reach us, 613-860-4663 is the way to reach us. Maybe it's just a clarity call. Maybe it's just a 15-minute conversation on the phone to see if there's more needed or not. And if there is, then we're happy to do a consultation.
Yeah, like that first 15 minutes is just what's the one next step? And maybe the next step is, no, I'm not doing this thing right now. My cabin is just fine the way it is. Or maybe it's what's the next step. Is it a consultation? Is it your banker? If you're a buyer, it's probably your banker next. Is it your lawyer? Is it your accountant? There's lots of different potential next steps.
Yeah.
And we're excited to sort of guide you through that.
Mm-hmm. And we're honored to be your advocates, building wealth through real estate and living a life exponential.
Moving forward with the Dekker Team. Moving forward.